What is up, everyone? Welcome to my week 2 reactions and takeaways. Last week I did pretty bad. I went 7-9 on games predicted, so unpredictable week, I'm not gonna lie. Started with the Bills able to beat the Dolphins 31-10, and I'm just gonna address it. I hope Tua is able to live a healthy life regardless if he retires or not, because he sustained a concussion in this game. And he has problems with concussions. He's had them earlier in his career. And I hope he, does what's best for him. And I hope that it, helps him live a fulfilling life after football. And anyway, other than that, the Bills basically thoroughly beat the Dolphins. And it was before Tua got injured. So it wasn't like him getting injured changed the game or anything. I mean, the Bills were going to win regardless. Bills were just kicking the Dolphins' ass in this game. Moving on, we got the Vikings beating the 49ers 23-17. And this was definitely a surprise. I thought for sure the 49ers were going to win this game, but the Vikings defense was able to shut down the 49ers' high-powered offense. They didn't have CMC, but I mean, regardless, it's still an impressive feat beating the 49ers. And it seems like the 49ers just can't beat the Vikings in Minnesota, because apparently they haven't beat them since 1992 in Minnesota. So yeah, I guess the Vikings are just one of those teams that just has the upper hand against the 49ers when playing at home. And the Vikings are leading the NFC North, and the Seahawks are leading the NFC West. Definitely not what I expected after week 2. Speaking of the Seahawks, they were able to beat the Patriots in overtime with a score of 23-20. And I mean, I got to give credit to the Patriots, honestly. The fact that they were even remotely competitive in this game is actually really impressive. I think Gerard Mayo is a pretty good head coach, or at least he's having a good debut. His first 2 games have been pretty impressive. I mean, he beat the Bengals in week 1, and he almost beat a heavily favored Seahawks team in week 2. And I mean, Seahawks, you got the job done. And I mean, the Patriots seems like they're just putting up a fight. So I can't say, they almost lost an upset or anything like that. I think it was just a case of the Patriots potentially being better than what we think they're going to be. All right, our next game's an NFC East clash. The Commanders beat the Giants 21-18. And this is like the first game in NFL history, I'm pretty sure, where a team scored 3 touchdowns, didn't give up a single touchdown, and lost. Because if you look at the scoreboard, you'd think that the Commanders scored 3 touchdowns, but no. The Giants actually were the team to score 3 touchdowns. The reason the score's weird like that is just because their kicker was injured, so they couldn't even kick extra points or field goals or anything. The Commanders, on the other hand, their kicker made 7 field goals, and that was enough to get the victory, as the Giants, they just didn't have a kicker, and that honestly was probably the reason they lost. If they had a kicker, they would win this game. And I mean, Daniel Jones honestly didn't look that bad in this game. I mean, I definitely don't think he's a good quarterback. I just think, this game in particular was not his fault. This was more just, shitty circumstances for the Giants, not having a kicker. And I mean, because their defense was fine. I mean, they didn't give up a touchdown. I mean, 7 field goals is obviously not ideal, but if you don't give up a touchdown, usually you win. But the Giants just couldn't get it done this time. All right, our next game, probably like the least shocking outcome, if I'm being honest. Chargers beat the Panthers 26-3, and this was my lock of the week, so I'm 2-0 on locks of the week. So that's good, I guess. But I mean, yeah, the Chargers just ran the ball, and the Panthers don't exactly have a run defense, so they just were able to do that and win the game. I mean, Justin Herbert wasn't bad, but he didn't have an insane 300-yard, 4-touchdown performance. I mean, he only had 2 touchdowns, and he had a pick, too. So, I mean, the Panthers, yeah, it's not looking good. It was actually announced, yesterday that Bryce Young's going to be benched for week 3. So, Yeah, sorry, Panthers fans. It's probably a rough time, but it's all right. I know how it feels. You can get through it. Chargers, you finally have a competent head coach, and it looks like you can finally win games without, giving your fans heart attacks and things like that. So I'm happy for you guys, even as a team that's in your division. I'm still happy for you guys. That's how miserable you were in the past. Moving on, we got probably one of the most shocking upsets of this week. Saints beat the Cowboys 44-19. And, the Saints might be legit. Week 1, they put up over 40 points, but it was against the Panthers, so no one really gave them credit for it, myself included. But, you do it against a team like the Cowboys. I know it's the Cowboys, and they always do shit like this, but that is a talented roster. So, this is definitely exciting if you're a Saints fan to get 2 weeks in a row where you're putting up over 40 points. Like, this team is dominating right now. We'll see if they can keep it up. I don't think they're going to put up 40 points every week, but, this is definitely a really good start to the season. As for the Cowboys, what more is there to say? This is like the most Cowboys thing ever. You lose to a team that you're way more talented than. I don't think there's like very few positions on the Cowboys that are worse than the Saints. And running back was one of them, obviously. Alvin Kamara had a really good game. He had over 100 rushing yards. He had 4 touchdowns or something crazy like that. He was just a dog, and the Cowboys just couldn't stop him, and they couldn't really get anything together on offense either, so this kind of falls on both the offense and the defense, because, a team with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and a talented offensive line should put up more than 19 points. But yeah, that's this game. This just shows how fraudulent the Cowboys are at times, and this just shows how streaky the Saints can truly be if they can, put it all together week in and week out. From one bad run defense to another, we go to talk about the Colts losing to the Packers 10-16, and Josh Jacobs and Malik Willis really gave the Colts run defense some problems. They had over 250-something rushing yards at the end of the first half, and at that point, the game was already over, so the Packers didn't really have to do much after that, which they didn't, but, they really didn't have to. They only scored 6 points in the second half, but they were up 10-0. Anthony Richardson really struggled against the Packers defense, which, that's not that surprising because he's going to have games like this. That's just the Anthony Richardson experience since he's so young and he just hasn't played a whole lot. I just think these games will be good for him in the long run. So I'm not that worried about the Colts offense. They actually had a chance to win the game too at the end for a little bit, but realistically, you're not going to win games when you're in the situation they were. They had the ball with 20 seconds left and no timeout, so a win there would be more on the Packers being stupid than anything. But as for the Packers, this is a good fucking win. I did not think they were going to win. I don't think anyone thought Malik Willis of all quarterbacks was going to get this team a win. But he did, and I think this honestly might be the first time. This is the first time I've ever seen Malik Willis start and win a game for a team, so happy for him. I'm happy for the Packers. They could definitely use a game like this, considering Jordan Love's going to still be out for a few weeks. But yeah, Packers, you're looking good. Colts, yeah, your defense fucking sucks. Moving on, we got another surprise as the Browns able to beat the Jags 18-13. And I guess they won. Neither team really looked particularly good in this game. The defenses look good, but that's just because Trevor Lawrence played really bad and Deshaun Watson's not exactly a good quarterback. And I guess credit to the defenses for doing their best, but offenses were ugly. This is just one of those games where I feel like you look at it and you just know that no team really played that great. It's just the Browns have a better defense than the Jags, and I guess the Jags have a worse offense. I don't know. But I thought the Jags were going to win, honestly. I thought because it was at home and Deshaun Watson played horrible against the Cowboys, I mean, he definitely didn't play great in this game, but he just didn't mess it up. I mean, he just did what he had to do, and the defense took care of the rest. Moving on to Jets-Titans. Jets beat the Titans 24-17, and I'm not going to discredit the Jets or anything, but you probably should have won this game by a lot more. Considering how bad Will Levis plays at times so far this year, and the fact that you're an aspiring Super Bowl contender against a team that's probably rebuilding, if we're being honest, sophomore quarterback who's very raw still, kind of like Anthony Richardson. And it's like, you just got to take care of business here, which they did, but, I would have liked to see him do it by a lot more. And as for the Titans, I mean, yikes. This is the second game in a row where you definitely had a chance to win. And Will Levis threw an awful, awful interception at the end of the game. He did the same thing last week against the Bears. I mean, this guy just... he's got talent, but I feel like he reminds me so much of Carson Wentz, so much. When I watch Carson Wentz play on the Colts in 2021, he literally did, the exact same thing. He'd play solid enough to give the team a chance and then throw some ridiculous interception at the end of the game. So he needs to really work on that. Titans, honestly, could be argued to be 2-0 right now, but they're 0-2 because of their quarterback can't have a functioning brain for the final 2 minutes of every game. Moving on, we got the Bucks beating the Lions 20-16, and I'm not super surprised by the outcome. I mean, I'm obviously surprised the Bucks won because I picked the Lions, but I mean, this is one of those games where I feel like it could go either way, and it just went in the Bucks' favor. And the Lions, man, they were racking up yards like crazy. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown had over 100 receiving yards. Jared Goff had over 300 passing yards. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery had solid games. And they still lost, just because they had red zone inefficiencies. And their defense was pretty good, too. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson had, I think he had 4 sacks or something like that. He had a crazy game. This is just one of those games where I think the Lions just let it get away from them. They had the Bucks dead to rights. I mean, Baker Mayfield wasn't bad, but he was definitely not as good as he was last week, where he was lighting it up. I mean, he did enough to win, I guess. So credit to the Bucks. Lions, I mean, you'll be fine. This is just one of those where you just guys let it get away from you, and you'll have to work on it next week whenever you play whoever you play. And here we are with another very shocking game. The Raiders went into Baltimore and beat the Ravens 26-23, and this ended a lot of survivor pools, I know that. And, this is another game where the Ravens, they had the Raiders dead to rights, and they still lost. They were up by 10 in the fourth quarter, and they had them right where they wanted them. And they lost. This is inexcusable. I think the Lions game, at least you could say, maybe the Bucks defense played really well in the red zone, but this, no. The Raiders didn't do anything that spectacular. I mean, the Ravens just choked. And for some reason, John Harbaugh has this new form habit of choking 10-point leads, 10-plus point leads in the fourth quarter. And, I just don't get it. How do you lose games like this? These are, the easiest games you have, and you just mess it up. You're up by 10. That's crazy how you just keep losing games like this. I mean, the Ravens aren't going to do shit if they keep doing this. I mean, they'll probably make the playoffs, but are they going to do this in the playoffs? Are they going to be up by 10 in the fourth and do this in the playoffs? I have concerns with them. As for the Raiders, I mean, I'll give them credit. I mean, they went into Baltimore and took care of business, and a lot of people, including myself, had no thought process of that even happening. So credit to the Raiders. Oh man, this one is good. The Cardinals beat the Rams 41-10 to start our 4 o'clock slate. And the result is not super shocking, but the outcome of the result, losing by 31 to the rebuilding Cardinals, Yeah, that's not looking good for the Rams. They didn't have Puka Nacua in this game. He was injured, and they actually lost Cooper Kupp in the first or second quarter or something like that. And both of those guys are going to be out for at least 4 weeks. So this team has a lot of injuries to deal with. So it's not all their fault, but you would think they would at least put up more of a fight against the Cardinals, who aren't that impressive of a team talent-wise. I mean, effort-wise, they're like A+. Like, this Cardinals team, like, they honestly, I said they're not very talented, but they could make the playoffs. They really could. I mean, they almost beat the Bills last week, and they obliterated the Rams. I mean, it's not like the full strength Rams or anything, but it's still hella impressive that you're beating a team like the Rams, who are still more talented than you, even if they didn't have Puka or Cooper Kupp in that game. But yeah, this team could be dangerous. This team could definitely make a run at the NFC West if the 49ers and Rams aren't going to put up as much of a fight as we anticipated. But yeah, Cardinals, you're going to be fun to watch this year. And Rams, hopefully you don't have any more injuries. Our next 4 o'clock game, the Steelers beat the Broncos 13-6. And this is a typical Steelers victory. They played outstanding defense because they have a top 5 defense, and their offense, which is like maybe top 30, played efficient enough to win this game. And I mean, credit to them. This is a Steeler victory. They win games like this. They're the team that you think of when you think of ugly wins. It's the Steelers. And as for the Broncos, they're probably the team I think of when I think of ugly losses, because we've had 2 losses that didn't look very well. We had, in our first game, we were up and we lost. We blew the lead. And then in this game, we just didn't really put up a fight. We were just down the whole game. Like, we didn't score until the 4th quarter. We didn't score a single touchdown. Bo Nix does not look very good, which he's a rookie, so I can excuse it a little bit. But there's other players on this team that need to step up. Like, our receivers are dropping passes like crazy. Our O-line is not giving Bo Nix nearly enough time. We're not handing the ball off to our running backs because Sean Payton wants to make Bo Nix throw like 40 times a game like he's Drew Brees or something. Like, Sean Payton, he is I cannot stand him right now. He needs to really work on his play calling, because I can't stand how we're losing games. These were 2 winnable games, and because of our stupid ass head coach that can't play call, we lost 2 games. It's not the losing part, it's how we lose. 2 winnable games that we just pissed away because our stupid head coach still thinks he's the Saints coach coaching Drew Brees or something like that. Anyways, gonna not shit on the Broncos anymore. I did enough. Steelers, good win. Broncos, you fucking suck. Alright, our next game is the Chiefs beating the Bengals by a singular point. And because it's Chiefs-Bengals, there's of course some controversy at the end. There was a controversial call where the Bengals defender held the Chiefs receiver, which it was holding, but I mean, it just sucks that they called it. It was ticky-tacky as hell, and I mean, when you're playing against the Chiefs, they're gonna get most of the calls. And I mean, when I watched the game, most you might not know what I'm talking about, but I mean, they just made some mistakes in the game as well. That didn't cost them the game. It was other things they did. It was either a pick 6 or a fumble recovery for 6 at some point in the 2nd or 3rd quarter. I can't remember, that the Bengals coughed up to the Chiefs. And I feel they just, it's easy to blame the refs for this loss because, you could argue that, they favor the Chiefs. They do. But, there's other things they can do to clean their game up. It's not all the refs' fault or anything like that. There's definitely things the Bengals need to work on. And, as for the Chiefs, they're the reigning defending 2-time Super Bowl champions. 2-0 is definitely not a surprise for them. But 0-2 definitely does not look good for the Bengals. They always start slow, and they're doing that again this year. Moving on, we got our Sunday night game, which was the Texans able to beat the Bears 19-13. And this is another one of those games where, I mean, the Bears kind of remind me of the Broncos. Like, they have a rookie quarterback who's not playing well, and the pieces around him aren't playing that great either. I mean, the offensive line for the Bears isn't playing very well, which, I mean, is a little understandable because the Texans do have a really good pass rush with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., but, I mean, they should still be better because Caleb Williams just does not look comfortable in the pocket. He reminds me of Bo Nix, and, you don't want to be reminded of Bo Nix. I'm telling you that. And, I mean, they just couldn't get the job done. They only scored 1 touchdown. Caleb Williams still doesn't have a passing touchdown, which I guess, to be fair, a lot of rookie quarterbacks don't. But this is one of those games where the Bears were definitely in reach, and their offensive line was probably their main problem because their defense was actually pretty good. They held the Texans, of all teams, to 19 points. And usually that's enough, but not this game, as the Texans, I mean, they weren't spectacular because, I mean, they almost lost, but they did what they had to do, so credit to them. And Texans are 2-0. They're the only team in the AFC South to have a victory. They have 2, and the rest of the teams are 0-2. And the Bears, they're 1-1. You could argue they should be 0-2 because of the Will Levis pick at the end of week 1, but I digress. Texans, good win. Bears, I think Eberflus needs to go. And our final game, our Monday night game, this was a very big shocker when I watched this game. The Falcons beat the Eagles 22-21. And man, oh man, this is concerning for the Eagles. They were up by 3, and they literally had a chance to end the game with a first down. And for some reason, on 3rd down and 3, they decided to pass the ball, giving the Falcons more time to score a touchdown to take the lead by 1, which they did. It wasn't a bad play call because Saquon was wide open. He just dropped the ball. That's what everyone's going to talk about with this game. Just the Saquon wide open drop that happened. But at the same time, why the hell are you passing? Why would you pass in that situation to begin with? I mean, even if you don't get it on 3rd and 3 and you run, at least you're chewing clock, and that would have put way more pressure on Kirk and the Falcons to, go and score. And they just didn't do it. And I mean, I think Nick Sirianni needs to not get so cocky. I feel like at the end of the game, he was acting like the Eagles just won the Super Bowl on the sidelines. He needs to grow the fuck up and be a head coach. So I'm kind of happy he lost. He deserved it. As for the Falcons, I mean, Kirk, he looked phenomenal on that last drive. I'm not gonna lie, I only watched the last 5 minutes of this game, but boy, oh boy, it was a good 5 minutes. Kirk put on a show in the last, few minutes. And this is just a game where the Eagles really should not have lost, but they did. And it's still a good win by the Falcons. And that's going to do it for my Week 2 recap, reactions, whatever you want to call it. And on Thursday, I'll post my Week 3 predictions for the NFL, and I will see you guys in that video.